What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports. And the episode coming at you today is continuing with the NASCAR weekly preview and prediction series for what is now going to be week 12, 3 months into the season. I do have an announcement for next week. Um, I will not be doing one for the All Star race like I did last year. I will try and find something. I might not have an episode at all for you guys next week, but I'm kind of boycotting All Star. I don't want to give NASCAR any attention for the All Star race because, as you guys have know, if you listen to other podcasts, I am anti having it at Dover Motor Speedway, and I'll just leave it at that. I don't remember which episodes exactly, but past episodes I talk about how silly of a decision I think that is. So I'm going to be doing a miniature boycott of the All Star race and not giving it any attention. Hopefully, you guys will join me as well. So don't expect an episode next week, but I will pick them up for the regular points races. Without further ado, let's get into some storylines going from Watkins Glen. Big one, Chase Elliott is back in victory lane, up to third in points, becomes the second driver to win multiple races this season. Obviously, Tyler Reddick dominating with 5 wins. He's now, I believe, on his longest winless streak of the season. 2 weeks, maybe? Yes, because I think Gibbs was 4 weeks ago, then Reddick, then Hocevar, and then this week was Elliott. But nonetheless, Elliott becomes only the second driver this season to win their second race of the season because Tyler Reddick is winning so much. A lot of other drama happened at the track this week. Kyle Busch versus John Hunter Nemechek. Kyle Busch not penalized after kind of wrecking John Hunter Nemechek, ruined his good day on a day where it looked like he had some top 10 speed. Gets into John Hunter Nemechek after whatever. I'm still trying to figure out what the slight was there. That was very interesting beef. But nonetheless, Kyle Busch, John Hunter Nemechek both have worse finishing positions because of it. Another incident that happened earlier in the race, Ryan Preece and Ty Gibbs. Ryan Preece gets penalized after shipping around Gibbs. I don't know exactly why Preece was upset. I know that Gibbs went around him on the inside and washed up a little bit. I don't think that was entirely Gibbs' fault. I think that was just hard racing and Chastain shutting the air off. I think Preece way overreacted to that. I don't know if there was something else that I'm not aware of there, but on the original incident where Gibbs shoves Preece up the track, I don't think it was entirely Gibbs' fault, and I don't think it was egregious. I think it was just normal racing. Kind of strange for Preece. And the number one thing you can't do in NASCAR, if you're going to wreck somebody intentionally, you can't talk about it on the radio and admit you did to it. You're going to get penalized every time. Preece does get penalized, and right now, at least, has a massive points penalty. Pit road chaos and strategy chaos. Because of some interestingly timed cautions, the strategies are all over the place. 4 tires, 2 tires, stay out. It felt like that most of the race. How long can you run it on fuel? So you saw a lot of different guys moving up and down very quickly because of that. And then on pit road, it causes chaos because there's a lot of cars on the lead lap. So when you're coming down pit road and your guys are going in and out, it means people are close together, and then you on an already narrow pit road, and then you add in the fact that there's so many different strategies. It means a lot of cars are going to be coming and going at the same time, and that called pit strategy chaos. You saw the big one, obviously. Joey Logano and Cole Custer, both of those guys ended up DNFing, or Joey Logano, Custer might have came back onto the track, but Joey Logano DNFing and having a horrible day because of a wreck on pit road. You saw a lot of guys get boxed in a couple times. On the second most notable incident, Larson and Briscoe. Briscoe coming out, Larson going in, and they make contact. Briscoe looked like he had a top 5 car, was running in the top 5 all day to that point, got good stage points. He ends up wrecking out, or not wrecking out, but having a bad day after that. Never quite had the same speed, lost a whole bunch of track position, didn't have a good day. And Larson just had a bad day from the jump, and that did not help. And then he ended up spinning later in the race as well. So lots of pit lane chaos on Sunday, affecting multiple drivers' days. JGR versus Spire. Denny's hopping on social media and speaking out. Spire is going at him. JGR with responses. JGR changing some of the language in the lawsuit. Crazy times. I will be watching this. I want to see, Spire was gaining speed, but did they have this much consistent speed? I think that's a fair argument. JGR versus Spire, man. This lawsuit's heating up. If you need to be caught up, JGR is accusing a former employee of taking sensitive trade secrets over to Spire Motorsports in order to help them with their speed and racing ability. And there's some discussion among the fan bases if that's the case or not. I don't know. I'm ready for it to play out in court. I'm tired of all these court cases. I want people to just race. And then a couple Watkins Glen updates. One, it looks like Watkins Glen, they've already learned their lesson for putting it in May this year, upstate New York in May, and they are moving it back to the playoffs, it sounds like, for next season. And this weekend, all to have some fun weather, lots of rain in the forecast that could mess up qualifying, could change the race, and this could be a race where whoever adapts the quickest works out the best. Rain tires, maybe some windshield wipers. Rain definitely in the forecast, so there could definitely be some wet weather racing this weekend at Glen. Maybe that's why they are moving the race back. Let's get into the history at Watkins Glen. The winners. No Toyotas have won at Watkins Glen in the next-gen era. Maybe that changes this weekend. Kyle Larson winning the first Watkins Glen next-gen race in 2022. His teammate winning it in 2023. Chris Buescher with that memorable win over Shane Van Gisbergen in the playoffs in 2024. And then last season, Shane Van Gisbergen won this race. Big surprise there. Best average finish, I have stars here for two active drivers because they've only raced in 2 of the 4 next-gen races. So while they're at the front here, they have only, like I said, they've only done half the races, so it's a smaller sample size. But Shane Van Gisbergen, 1.5. He has a first and a second in 2 races here. Chris Buescher averaging a top 5 finish at the Glen. Christopher Bell at 6.8. Carson Hocevar is tied with Joey Logano for 10.5. And obviously, Hocevar only has 2 races here as well. Most top 5s in 4 races, 5 drivers tied at 2. Shane Van Gisbergen, AJ Allmendinger, William Byron, Christopher Bell, Chris Buescher. So many of the names you're used to seeing on road courses. And then 10 drivers tied at 1 top 5. Denny Hamlin, Zane Smith, Daniel Suarez, Joey Logano, Chase Briscoe, Kyle Larson, Carson Hocevar, Ty Gibbs, Chase Elliott, and Ross Chastain. Most top 10s, Chris Buescher, only driver with a top 10 in every single next-gen race at Watkins Glen. Can he keep that streak going? 2 drivers tied at 3 top 10s, Chris Buescher and Tyler Reddick, or not Buescher, I believe it was Byron. Or no, it was Bell. It was Bell and Reddick. I guess I had B on the head when I was typing this up. My apologies. And then 9 drivers tied at 2, AJ Allmendinger, Michael McDowell, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, Ryan Blaney, Daniel Suarez, Chase Briscoe, William Byron, and Shane Van Gisbergen, 9 top 10s. And yes, it is Bell with the other top 10, not Buescher. Buescher has 4, and then Reddick and Buescher are tied at 3. So yeah, a lot of names you would normally expect to see on road courses. Some names, maybe just had one good race or it took advantage of a chaotic day of road course racing. But all in all, some usual names. Joey Logano, maybe not a guy you expect to be good on road courses, has been good here in the next gen car. Favorites to win at Watkins Glen. My favorite team Trackhouse, for obvious reasons. Van Gisbergen, is always the favorite. Zilich has lots of experience on road courses. It's supposed to be very good on them as well. His first full season in Cup has only had 1 road course, and it was a rough day for him. Not because anything he did; he had plenty of speed, but because of people around him. Ross Chastain is good. I expect Trackhouse to have speed. This is their bread and butter. They better have speed at Watkins Glen, or they could be in big trouble. I'm actually putting Joe Gibbs Racing as my second team here. I think they have 3 really good road course racers, top level road course racers. And Christopher Bell, Ty Gibbs, and Chase Briscoe. And I think all 3 of those cars should be competitive. Denny Hamlin has a second place finish here in the next gen era. and he's the worst out of all those guys in my opinion. So I expect to see Joe Gibbs racing with some speed. Hendrick Motorsports has 2 wins here, plus they have Chase Elliott. All 4 of their drivers, I think, are capable of a top 10 day on a road course. All of them have road course wins. So Hendrick may be disrespectful to have him at 3, but I believe in Joe Gibbs a little bit more, and I think Toyota wants that first Watkins Glen win this weekend. 23XI Racing, Bubba Wallace, not a great road course racer. I do think he's getting better, and I don't think that's appreciated enough. I remember last year at Watkins Glen, he had some decent speed, and you saw him running around the top 10 a lot. Tyler Reddick, though, obviously the big one at 23XI that you expect to be good, expect to be fast. Won the only other road course race so far this season, has won multiple road course races. I think Tyler Reddick has speed for 23XI. And then I was debating on this one. Spire, I think, should be fast. They're usually good on road courses. McDowell's really good on them. Carson Hocefar's really good on them. Daniel Suarez is good on them. In fact, Suarez and McDowell both have wins on road courses, and Hosefar is usually pretty good on them. So maybe a little bit disrespectful to leave Team Spire off. But for Team Penske, Logano in specifically has been good here. Blaney has had some good runs. He was very good here last year. And Blaney, putting the effort in on road courses, secretly has become a really good, maybe not secretly, but quietly has become a very good road course racer. And Cindric, in some respects, has underperformed what he did in the Xfinity Series, now the O'Reilly Series. Cindric has the ability and in a sense has proven he can race well on road courses. So I still think Penske's going to be okay on the road course this week. RFK usually does well outside of Buescher. Brad, this hasn't been a good place, but Ryan Preece, since he's gotten the RFK, has done okay on road courses. Buescher's going to be good. So that's another team worth mentioning. But I went ahead and gave it to Penske. My driver rankings, Shane Van Gisbergen is obviously number 1. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. I don't think that needs much discussing. I think that one's obvious. Christopher Bell, he needs a big rebound day. He's had speed at a lot of places and just can't finish. I think he could finish this weekend, maybe even with a top 5. Tyler Reddick, my 3rd best odds to win. William Byron, I think, has a decent probability at becoming the first multi-time winner at Watkins Glen in the next gen. And then Chase Elliott, he's hot right now. He just won a 2nd race. This new points format, I feel like, really caters to him. I feel like the confidence is going up with this 9 group. Chase Elliott, I have in the top 5 this weekend as well. And then Chase Briscoe 6th. He's a guy that needs a good day. He had a lot of speed at the first road course, and then they had a mechanical failure. They've had speed at a lot of tracks and can't finish. This would be a huge day for them. They had great speed last fall here. He qualified well, ran up with the cars at the front all day. He, in general, I think, hasn't gotten enough appreciation for how good he's been since arriving at JGR on road courses. I think he's been very, very good on road courses with JGR. Had a good finish here last time. Chase Briscoe 6th. Chris Buescher feels disrespectful to have him this low, but I think there's more and more guys and more teams that are figuring out road course racing and putting themselves in this upper echelon. Can Chris Buescher continue to get better with them? That's a big question I have this weekend. But Chris Buescher should be in the top 10 this weekend, a track he's won at and he likes at Watkins Glen, potentially even putting himself in contention for a top 5. Ty Gibbs has always been a good road course racer. JGR seems to have road course racing program figured out. Ty Gibbs should be in the top 10 all day and kind of rebound from a rough week, really rough 2 weeks. Ross Chastain, if they're going to be, they need to find speed. They're outside in looking in at the playoffs. I think they maybe find a way to get in, but this could go a long way. Trackhouse, Chastain was really, really good at Watkins Glen last fall. Chastain has been a good road course racer. I've already talked about Team Trackhouse and their ability on road courses. Chastain hasn't really found consistent speed this year. I think they show up with it this week in a must good day situation, if that makes sense. And then this 10 spot, I was thinking about a lot of guys. Zilich, had an okay week last week. He's a good road course racer, and Zilich probably competes for a top 10, even a top 5 this week. But I need to see more from him before I put him up there, at least in my opinion. I was thinking Blaney, I gave him so much praise, and he started on the pole here last year, but I didn't put him here. Logano has been good at Watkins Glen. Suarez has been good. Michael McDowell, a good road course racer with Spire. But I picked their teammate, Carson Hocevar, on a hot streak, won at Talladega, finished 7th last week, has been good on road courses. I also think it suits his aggressive driving style. Spire, I think, is getting faster and faster on road courses. And I think Carson Hocevar shows up with some speed and has a good finish this weekend. Let me know in the comments who your favorites to win Watkins Glentons are, and how many and if you agree with my rankings, and let me know how many of the drivers I have in my top 10 for this week you also have in your top 10. Let me know if you think I am completely off base. The regular season standings, Denny Hamlin trying to close the gap to Tyler Reddick. He closed it by 1 point. Tyler Reddick still just running away with the regular season championship. Deservedly so with 5 wins. Denny Hamlin still in second. Chase Elliott did close the gap. He is up to third after his second race win. And then Ryan Blaney didn't get stage points, but found a way to get a top 10 and salvage a point stay. He did fall back at Hamlin and Elliott, who were the two best, most consistent cars all day on Sunday. It looked like it was going to be a Joe Gibbs day. They had 4 cars in the top 5 at one point, but then 2 got wrecked out, not by their own doing. One gets hit on pit road, and it was just left Denny Hamlin, and Chase Elliott, once he got out front, couldn't be caught. But Hamlin, Elliott, and Blaney, those 3 I think are the 3 most consistent and most suited so far to try and run down Tyler Reddick. And I do think the gap will close eventually. Everybody has a bad week or 2, sometimes even 3 weeks in a row, and I think eventually Reddick will. I think this gap gets under 100, and Hamlin, Elliott, and Blaney are that second tier that I think have the ability to run him down. Chris Buescher into the top 5. Normally I say he's an 8 to 12 guy, but he's just been so consistent getting finishes. He has back-to-back good weeks going to a track that he likes. Chris Buescher, Mr. Consistency, all of a sudden in the top 5 above a lot of big names, followed by another guy who's on quite a hot streak after picking up his first career win, Carson Hocevar, up to 6th in points, followed it up with a good points day, led some laps, had a good top 10 finish at Texas after his first career win. Carson Hocevar and Chris Buescher, 5 and 6, 11 races into the season. Not a lot of people were expecting that. Kyle Larson dropping to 8th after an awful day. On speed, looked like he was going to be lucky to have a top 20 and then wrecks anyway. Kyle Larson falls all the way to 8th in points. Brad Keselowski catching up with Larson and Gibbs, and Ty Gibbs is 7th after having, I skipped over him. Ty Gibbs 7, had some speed, got some stage points, but ended up getting wrecked by Ryan Preece and kind of ruining his day. And then Kyle Larson, who had an even worse day than Gibbs. And then Keselowski makes up ground on both of those guys by having a solid day. Ran up front for a little bit on strategy, got a good stage 2 finish, and then came around to finish with a top 15. Brad, 9th in points, still I don't think has shown elite race winning speed, but always shows that he's is capable of running that 8 to 12 range and maybe a little bit better. William Byron had a good Survivor day, still doesn't seem to have that elite speed, but William Byron was able to end up with a top 10 even after a spin. William Byron stays in the top 10 on points, only 4 points ahead of Bubba Wallace, who started in the back and then drove towards the front and had a solid finish as well. This Kyle Larson in 8th to Bubba Wallace in 11th. They are only separated by 14 points. So, the back end of that top 10 is getting close. And if you add in Ty Gibbs and Carson Hocevar in 6th and 7th, 6th to 11th, Hocevar to Bubba Wallace is only separated by 29 points. So very close. With stage points and how much you get for winning, any of those guys can either quickly pull away or go to the back or to the front of that group. And that based off of the new point system. So very, very close racing between them. Christopher Bell falling even further after getting wrecked out of the race at the end of the first stage while leading. Crazy kind of accident, crazy spin there. is kind of what started the chaos in the race last week, and Christopher Bell was unfortunately at the wrong end of it. He is down the 12th in points at 291, somebody that's usually a championship contender this far down. Ryan Preece down to, after the points penalty, is down to 13th after what was a solid day. We'll see if the points penalty gets reversed, but he's at 273 points in 13th. Now only 2 points ahead of Daniel Suarez in 14th at 271. Then there's quite a big gap down towards the bubble. Austin Cindric at 248 in 15th. Chase Briscoe, even after the rough day, not getting what they expected, he's only 6 points back of Cindric and is on the cut line at 242. Logano and Cindric swapping 15th and 17th in and out. Logano only 7 points back of Briscoe despite the DNF. Ross Chastain 26 points rather back of the cut line in 18th with 216. So a lot of big names that have made deep playoff runs, former champions that you expect to see in the playoffs right now on the outside looking in and fighting on the cut line. Shane Van Gisbergen needs a good week this week. He's 1 point back of his teammate Ross Chastain at 215 and 19th. And AJ Allmendinger, a good road course racer, even though I think Colleague Racing doesn't have some of the speed they used to on road courses and guys are catching up. He can, with a good day, can move closer to the cut line. He is at 199 in 20th. Now that you've seen the standings where I have everybody rated, let's go into the power rankings real quick. I'm going to try and do them quick. Might not talk about everybody too long, but Tyler Reddick, I think, is easily the number one driver. I don't think anybody's been arguing that. He's been number one all season. Denny Hamlin, I left in second over Elliott, which is rare, but Hamlin has, I think right now Hamlin has been the second best driver. He hasn't had too many bad weeks. We'll see if that changed at Watkins Glen. He's still second in points. And I think if Hamlin could have ever gotten first place when he got the clean air, I don't think Elliott was fast enough to pass him. I think that's just an issue with these cars. I think whichever one of those cars was first was going to be able to hold the other one off. Denny Hamlin second, Chase Elliott close behind and almost a tie at third. And then Ryan Blaney in fourth. Like I said, I think Hamlin, Elliott, and Blaney are the guys best equipped to run Reddick down. I think those are my four favorites for the championship. Still plenty of time left in the regular season for that to change. Not even at halfway in the regular season yet. I have Carson Hocevar moving up to 5 with Chris Buescher. Those two guys have had great back-to-back weeks and have gotten the 5th and 6th in points, but Carson Hocevar has the win, which is why I have him over Chris Buescher. Both are going to a track where they are top 5 in average finishing position as well, so maybe a chance to keep both of their hot streaks going. Larson and Gibbs, guys that were hot in the top 5 in points and have kind of had a couple bad weeks in a row now, dropping farther in points. They're also dropping in the power rankings. Both guys, though, have been fast on road courses. Larson has won at Watkins Glen, so an opportunity for both of them to get it turned around. Same for William Byron in 9th. Kind of hasn't had a lot of race-winning speed this year, maybe any race-winning speed this year, but has been able to stay stay in the top 10 in points, hang around the back half. One hot streak, and he could be right where he is expected to be. Byron in 9th. Bubba Wallace rejoining the top 10 after a good day coming from the back. He's trying to break back through the top 10 in points. Like I said, one good day could jump him 3 or 4 spots with where the points currently are. Bubba Wallace rounding out the top 10. Brad Keselowski behind Bubba in my power rankings. Obviously, Brad Keselowski has had the better career, but I think Bubba Wallace has more consistent race-winning speed than Brad does, and they're not that far off in points, which is why I gave Bubba the nod over Brad. Bell is in 12th because, well, he is there in points. He did have a rough week, but I believe this is where Christopher Bell is capable of running, even if he's not right now. He's capable of winning races and winning a championship. He's still showing speed. They're just not having the finishes that they are accustomed to. Daniel Suarez starting to stack together good finishes, creeping up those point standings ever so slightly. Looking good in his first year with Spire. Kind of sticking it to Trackhouse maybe in some ways. Let me know your opinion on the comment below. Is Daniel Suarez proving himself kind of looking over at Trackhouse right now? Chase Briscoe in a similar boat as his teammate Christopher Bell, just not as high up on points, which is why I have him in 14th. like Christopher Bell, could win this weekend, could have a great points week this weekend. Constant has a lot of race winning speed, but sometimes due to his own fault, sometimes due to others, can't capitalize on it. Bell and Briscoe have been similar in a lot of ways this season. Ryan Preece, after the points penalty, I have dropping down to 15. I don't think he also has quite as much raw speed as some of the guys in front of him either, which is why it's that much more impressive he's finding consistency. Austin Cindric on the playoff cut line just had a solid kind of day. Didn't run in the top 10, but ran in the top 20. Okay day at Texas. Going to a road course where he wants to finish in the top 10, believes he's capable of. Austin Cindric at 16. Logano, I can't drop lower than 17 because he still does have a decent amount of points. He still has largely had speed. Definitely more than the 3 Trackhouse cars behind him. So Logano, despite the DNF, only falls to 17. And then I have 3 Trackhouse cars. Chastain and Van Gisbergen are not that far off the cut line. They still have hope going into a race. They expect to be competing for a top 5, potentially a win. They need to do that. Van Gisbergen actually was better than Chastain at Texas. Chastain was the worst finishing of the Trackhouse cars at Texas. Now I if my notes and my memory is correct, I do believe they sustained a penalty on one of the pit cycles, and that's partially why. But at ovals, you expect him to be the flag bearer for that team. And then Connor Zilic, I have back in the top 20. I debated this for a long time. He's way back in points, but he has a couple good weeks in a row. Was out front in Texas for a little bit on strategy, still came to a good finish, and going to a track where I think he has a legitimate chance to win. Even if I didn't have him in my top 10, I would not be shocked to see him win this weekend. So I put him in 20th as well. Maybe Connor Zilic is getting over some rookie bumps and about to go on a hot streak, despite Trackhouse not having some of the speed. And I also think that's part of the reason with all the Trackhouse drivers are not where maybe you expected them, is I think Trackhouse in general is lacking some speed. But I have them 18, 19, and 20 going into this week. Let's see how much that changes after the race. That's all I have for you guys today. Please, please, please like, comment, subscribe, follow, hit the bell, whatever you guys need to do. It would be much appreciated for me. Find a couch and watch some sports this weekend. There's a lot of great sports on, a lot of playoff action. MLB still going on. Some great college sports action as well for spring sports. Even, maybe you guys should try out watching a new sport this weekend that at the college level that you wouldn't have before, because there's a lot of good entertaining ones that are into the postseason other than baseball, which isn't even in the postseason yet. So find a couch, watch some sports. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. It's a crazy world out there. Peace out.